I got horn swallow.
And
My name is
Freddie is your timer. He'll give you a 5-minute warning.
okay. My name is Jeff, and I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, but in an NA meeting, identify as an addict. And in an AA meeting, identify as an alcoholic. I got introduced to the program in 1987. I went to visit my sister at College Hospital, and then she walked in the room with the doctors and everything and said, "We've decided it's in your best interest that you stay here." I tried to leave, and the people in the white coats chased me and freaking shot me with Thorazine, put me with 5-point restraints. It was fun. I went to a place called Charlie Street, went to some meetings there. I bounced in and out of this program quite a few times. I've had a couple years here and there. In '96, I went through the Rock Center, and my drinking and using started with drinking. I'm Irish Catholic, so my family was drinking in the beginning. Both my mom's brothers were alcoholics. She told me I'd be an alcoholic at 8 years old. I remember that shit, and if I didn't watch what I was doing. I know that for me it was 8th grade. Went to Catholic school for 7 years. I'm also a recovering Catholic. I spent 10 years in Catholic school, and then I got kicked out on purpose, and ended up going back to public school. And the first weekend out there, I ran into some friends. They had some drinks. They said, "Come on over." And I remember my mom was saying that you're going to be an alcoholic when you grow up. And so, well, and I remember having that drink and that first feeling of having that drink and that warmth that came over me, and just that all of a sudden I fit in. I went from Catholic school to private school. From private school to public school, and it was just like a whole different world. It's like black and white TV to color TV, and but I got to be me, and I just felt alive when I took that first drink. I remember that, and I just chased that from there on. And then obviously got into weed. I remember the guys we were at this place called the Fish Fry, which is a carnival down in Costa Mesa, Newport area, and big old carnival, and the guys are sitting on the back of the truck smoking some weed, and I was like, "Hey, let me get a hit at that." They're like, "You know what to do?" I was like, "Sure." I had no clue. I hit that, and I remember just coughing, and they're all laughing at me. I thought you knew what you're doing, and I instantly felt that release again. I just felt comfortable, and I was chasing that as it was too. I have a drug log like everyone does, but mine's mainly is recovery. In 1996, I ended up going to the Rock Center down in Garden Grove, and I was 110 pounds. I remember I was wearing one of these Ben Davis shirts, and it looked like a hanger just hanging on me, and I was sucked up and fucked up, and excuse my language. But I remember just the way I felt. It was just miserable. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to feel the way I was feeling. I just couldn't stop doing what I was doing. I just couldn't stop. No matter how much I tried, no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't stop. I'll just do a little bit here. And I remember doing those lines like, "God, just why does my heart give out?" And I remember that misery. And when I got to the Rock Center, it was that place was something else. And I stayed. At 18 months sober, I met her, of course, and at 10 years sober, she's like, "Why do you still go to those meetings? All those people do." She's a normie, of course, right? And why do you go to those meetings? All those people do is complain and bitch and whine and don't do anything to change their lives. And I was like, "You're right." And I pulled back from the meetings and stopped doing what I was supposed to do. And I stopped going to sponsoring guys. I stopped doing the speaker meetings I was running, and stopped doing all the things that I needed to be doing to stay sober. And I started getting loaded. Not too long after that, I was in the mortgage business, running a mortgage company, and there's drinks all around. I'm buying people drinks all the time, but I wasn't drinking. But eventually, hanging out in that barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. And I ended up getting a haircut. And 5 years later, I'm back at, I see why you're going to meetings. You better get back to those fucking meetings. Now I see, she saw me sober. She never saw me loaded. So like 5 years later, she's like, "You better get back to those meetings or you're not going to see your son. I don't want you in the house. Get the fuck out of here." And I see why you were sober. And I was like, so I turned around in 2011 and I got sober again. For me, it was funny because the last couple times I was in detoxes, what's your drug of choice? My drug of choice is whatever you had. Didn't matter if it was alcohol, didn't matter if it was drugs, whatever got me the fuck out of my head. Whatever got me from feeling the feelings that I was feeling. And drug of choice was just whatever. I just didn't, there was no real drug of choice. It was whatever got me high, whatever got me loaded, and I hope you have a lot of it because I'm not sharing mine with you. For me, it was 2011 was pretty rough. It was the first time I actually did a detox, and that wasn't on someone's couch or doing something like that. And in that same year, I got my 1 year sober. My first grandchild was born. I got 5 kids. 10 minutes is short, so I'm just trying to sum it all kind of up real quick. I had my first grandchild at 1 year, and at 4 years, she came to me again. She said, why do you go to those meetings? I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And she gave me an ultimatum, AA or me. And I was like, are you fucking... Seriously, the last time you did this, look what happened. And she's like, I don't care. All you do is go to those meetings. And I said, program. You know what I mean? I chose the program over her, you know, and it wasn't an easy choice. It wasn't easy at all, but I had to do it. I wasn't going to go back to what I was doing before. And in 2017, my best friend Gabby Gaborno died from Cadillac Tramps, the lead singer, in January. My mom died on St. Patrick's Day. She gave me divorce papers at my mom's funeral after 20 years, right at my mom's funeral. And December 26th of 2017, I tried to take my own life at 6 years sober. And just get miserable and dry and wasn't doing the things that I needed to be doing. And each time I couldn't figure out why it was 10 years, 6 years. And then, so I got sober again. I took 120 Vicodin, that didn't work. I tried to slit my wrist, that didn't work. I tried to electrocute myself with the toaster in the water, and that didn't work. And I turned myself into detox one more time. I called some friends and got into detox, and that was 2017. And instead of doing anything about it, I just got right back into work, went back to the sober living house, got back in. 6 years later, I'm up here in San Pedro going to meetings for about a year, close to a year now, going to meetings, sponsoring guys, doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And let me back up a little bit. So in 2000, there's something that I never shared all these times that I was sober. All these times I was going, I did my steps, I worked with my sponsor, but I shared everything, but I wasn't rigorously honest about what was going on. I didn't share about really what was going on. When I was a teenager, about 14 or 15, we were hanging out with these other cats and older guys. It was my little sister, me, and a bunch of friends, and somehow it just ended up just being me and my little sister, and one put a gun to my head and the other one raped my sister in front of me. And I never dealt with that, you know. I could still hear those scream, you know, and it messed with me for a long time. And so 2016, I go to pick up, or 17, 2018, I go to pick up my son because my wife gave me divorce papers. My mom passed away. I go to pick up my son, and the guy who raped my sister is in my house living with my wife. And I've been looking for him for like 25, 30 years. And I remember sitting outside that house. My son's in the car. I'm in a freaking Uber at the time, trying to go to pick up my son. This dude comes walking out of the house, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I just remember seeing him, and I got out of the car, and I started to go. My son grabbed hold of me, and he's like, please just get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. And all my kids were freaking out. And, so I just got in the car and left. I went back, and there's this girl I was dating, and her husband had a car, and he had a gun, 45 in there. And I remember pulling up to the house that night, borrowed her car with the gun in there, and I was sitting out in front of the house, and I was going to go inside and kill him. I was just so fucking pissed, and I was going to kill her for believing it. You know, I asked her, I was like, you know, this is the guy that did that. And she's like, oh, he said he didn't do it. So what do you expect him to say? And as I'm sitting in the car, I don't know how this guy found out, but a good friend of mine jumped in the passenger seat of the car and said, let's go. And I'm like, you better get out of here, bro. I'm about to do something stupid. And he was like, no, we're leaving right now. And let's go to a meeting. I was sober at the time. And so we left. We went to a meeting. 2 weeks later, that guy ended up overdosing. Someone gave him a hot shot in a hotel room. That guy that saved my life. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Thank God I didn't do it. It was one of the hardest things I had to do, is walk away from that, let that go. So we're coming up to 2000, January of this year, I picked up 6 years. And, no, wait. So it gets better. So January of this year, I picked up 6 years sober, and my nephew ends up killing himself, committing suicide. My son calls me up, and that guy is in the house, put his hands down his girlfriend's pants. And he's asking me what to do. And I'm just like, you know what I want to do. And all that shit came back up again. And then I was working. I had a job. I was renting a room from this lady. And all of a sudden the job was like, hey, we'll hold on for 2 weeks. This lady's like, hey, I need a female roommate. And you got to move. I couldn't find anywhere to go. And all of a sudden I felt like jumping off that bridge down here. And I turned myself into the hospital over here I called my little sister who's got 4 years, and I turned myself into the hospital over here, and I ended up asking for help and end up in a psych unit where people are shitting and pissing on themselves and they're like, you hear voices? Yeah, what the fuck did I do? I remember being in that hospital freaking out, and that just reminded me where I could end up if I don't watch what I'm doing. The day I left the hospital, my sponsee, Emmanuel, you guys know Emmanuel, calls me, and my sponsee, Chris Higgins, that was living here at Fred Brown, had overdosed and died. And I felt like there was something that I could have done. I ended up started smoking a little pot again, and it was no big deal, but it was big enough for me to where I was starting to think that, get those feelings again. And so I called Fred Brown, and I asked Fred Brown for help because I wasn't just going to go back. And I had friends that were calling me and telling me that, hey, I got you a job, I got you sober living, don't worry about it. And I was like, no, I need to stop. I need to stop and work on me and get the therapy. So I came to Fred Brown for therapy, not for program necessarily. I came here to get sober, don't get me wrong. But I needed the therapy. I needed to stop and deal with that shit that I just shared with you that I couldn't share with anybody about before. Because it was humiliating. It was, I'm a full grown man. I couldn't protect my little sister. I couldn't do anything to stop any of that shit. But I never forgave myself. And with the therapy and the writing that I'm doing here at Fred Brown and all the stuff with meeting with Adrian and doing all the counseling and stuff, I'm getting a lot better. I'm learning to forgive myself for the things that I've done, and got a little over 61 days, you know what I mean? And nervous as hell. Nancy calls me up and was like, will you speak? I can't turn down an AA request, and I want to stay sober. I will go to any length to stay sober. I've almost got into a couple arguments and I realize what I'm doing and I have to walk away, and I've had to walk away, bow down from all kinds of stuff because nothing's going to get me kicked out of this program. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to get through whatever I have to do to get through it. I've made mistakes. I'm learning. I'm changing. I'm grateful to be sober today. I'll go to any length to stay sober just like I went to any length to get loaded. Thank you for permission.